Hello and welcome to the Nightly Muck, where we take a look at social ills and political corruption. I'm your host, Joseph L. White. Tonight we'll be sitting down with modern muckraker Stephen Colbert, as well as taking a critical look at prohibition and the spoils system in the 21st century. So, Stephen, I saw your recent broadcast about global warming. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, well, I'm not a scientist, so I believe between 0 to 100% of the time it's either a man-made thing that creates this global warming, or it just could be nature in itself.
Well, that's interesting. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, I'm not a scientist, Joseph.
That's interesting. Stephen, I think the fans would like to know more about you.
Well, fans, I am a 1986 graduate of the University of Northwestern Illinois, not St. Paul. I was a reporter for Comedy Central, and I've done many other things throughout my lifetime.
Well, Stephen, how do you think this whole global warming thing affects average American citizens today?
Well, Joe, it doesn't.
Well, there you have it, folks. Stephen Colbert on global warming, not a problem. And now I'm here with Louis Okafor, author of Touched by the African Soul. So, Louis, what are you here to talk about today?
Well, Joe, as much as I love the African soul, I'm here to talk about prohibition.
Well, Louis, author of Touched by the African Soul, that's an odd topic to pick. Could you explain it a little bit more for our viewers at home?
Well, Joe, prohibition was a nationwide constitutional ban on alcohol. This outlawed the consumption of alcohol, the production of alcohol, the transportation of alcohol, among other things. Now, this ban lasted from 1920 to 1933, so it was a good amount of time. A favorite quote I like to pull from this time period is, "Prohibition made the gangster not just well paid, but also well liked." McWilliams.
You can read more about this in his book, Touched by the African Soul. You know, Louis, I can't imagine that was a very popular decision.
You're absolutely correct, Joe. You're absolutely correct. You know, in fact, a lot more evil than good actually came out of Prohibition. For example, corrupt governments, loss of taxpayers' money, increased alcohol consumption, and, a majority of this was all caused by a large organized crime. Organized crime wouldn't have been able to occur without Prohibition.
Could you say that when police are spending their time arresting those doing crimes that harm no one, that criminals that are actually doing crimes that do harm people, do they get off a little bit easier or maybe even get out of jail?
Yes, that's a very good point. That's a very good point, Joe.
And now we'll move on to a more pressing matter. Well, we'll cool things down a little bit. And now we're here with a Mr. Wall, who recently just wrote a very insightful book on the lingering effects of the spoils system in American politics today. Mr. Wall, are there any opening statements you'd like to say?
Thank you, Joseph. A very honorable introduction from a very honorable man.
How would you describe the modern-day spoils system?
Well, Joseph, are you a Democrat with the last name Clinton or Kennedy? Or a Republican with the last name Reagan or Bush? Because if so, you've got their nomination.
Well, Mr. Wall, could you provide us with a more recent example?
Yes, Joseph. One Minnesota state senator who is self-titledly fiscally responsible took out a $900,000 loan on a business which few know if it actually ever existed. Is this fiscally responsible?
That sounds kind of scandalous. Tell me a little bit more.
Yeah, Joseph, when you consider a fiscally responsible man taking out that large of a loan on such a small business, it blows your mind, especially when you consider he's against a bunch of government funding. Now, why would he do this? The question is yet to be answered. He was forgiven of all loans.
Well, that seems to be an issue that requires some further monitoring.
Yeah, I sure do hope some new developments occur.
Well, that's all the time we have today, folks. We'll see you back here tomorrow for some more modern-day muckraking.